like that cherry bomb.
Welcome back to Breaking Beauty Podcast, Dr. Dendy Engelman. Now, we just discussed off mic that some people call you Dr. Dendy, some people call you Dr. Engelman. Do you have a preference?
I mean, you can call me whatever you like. You can also just call me Dendy if you want. But my Instagram is at Dr. Dendy, which kind of started as a joke.
Oh, really?
Because we always, used to talk about in medical school if there were someone who was, doing something that wasn't necessarily medical, but they called themselves doctor. It was always doctor first name.
Right.
So my Dendy is my grandmother's last name, but it's my first name. So it was kind of started as a joke to me when I made my handle.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's easier. A lot of patients just default to it.
Well, it's really great to catch up with you again. It's been a minute. And actually, the last time I saw you, I was at a wonderful rooftop party at the Schaefer Clinic and where you practice. I think that was like summer of 2023. And like Dorinda was there.
Yes,
and I was like, dude, this is the best dermatology practice in the city, apparently. Rooftop parties.
I know that private terrace is great. I'm very lucky to work there. And we love spring and summer parties. So
yeah.
You're welcome anytime.
Do you often do that?
We do them a lot when the weather's nice. We'll do probably once a month.
Oh, nice.
Either different brands host there or we'll have one just for Schaefer Clinic and invite like our, VIPs. And it's just special. I mean, obviously post-COVID, it was like tough to figure out how to gather people, but it was outside, which was nice, and private to our office. So it became a hot spot.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will be there next time.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Speaking of which, the weather is warming up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to talk to you today about transitioning from your winter skincare routine to your spring routine. What products should you break up with and which products should you embrace?
Well, I always tell my patients we're going to stop a vitamin A derivative, a retinol or retinoid in the summer, because we do know that those anti-aging ingredients in the vitamin A derivatives are wonderful for helping with fine lines, wrinkles, pore size, all the hyperpigmentation, skin tone, skin texture. But they do photosensitize you. So in the summer months, if you are going to be, playing golf or tennis 3 times a week and really exposing your skin, then that may be one that we break up with just for the summer.
Yeah.
And have your summer fling. And then you can go back to it in the fall when we're not out in the elements as much. If you are oily or acne prone, certainly we want to stay away from thicker, more emollient creams that we may have leaned into over winter, because I'll tell you, even my oiliest patients were really suffering over the winter.
Yeah.
It's been a brutal one in New York.
Yes.
Cold and dry.
Yeah.
And so people, you tend to increase your emollients in the dry winter months. But as the spring and summer months come in, the ambient humidity rises, and subsequently our skin doesn't need as much or thicker hydrators. So you can do more of a gel or a lotion as far as the vehicle.
Yeah.
Certainly hyaluronic acid is a great one. We always want to make sure it's coupled with some kind of ceramide or sealant in order to keep the hydration in the skin, because if we're just using pure HA on the skin, it can actually dehydrate the upper levels of the skin because it's taking the moisture out of your skin and putting it into the environment.
Okay.
Yeah, that phenomena fascinates me, because you always think of it being this miracle plumper, and then you're like, wait a minute, I look drier than ever.
Exactly.
I'm crusting over here.
You need a sealant, you said. So what would that look like in the spring?
So either, I love ceramide containing creams or capsules, or, even if you just use an over-the-counter skin lotion, like CeraVe or Cetaphil, certainly will help to really lock in that moisture.
Okay.
And a lot of them now are formulated with multiple molecular weights of hyaluronic acid. So low and high, they tend to blend really well and not dehydrate. But, when we're coming around with like individual ingredients in certain containers, that often could be one of the more dehydrating of SKUs. So we want to make sure that we're leaning into ones that aren't undoing what we're trying to do, which is hydrate the skin.
Right. Do you have a favorite hyaluronic acid serum that you think is legit?
Yes. I mean, I love Neutrogena's Hydro Boost. I think that's a really great one.
Yeah.
I think it's great for those who, I feel like my oily and acne prone patients feel like they can't use moisturizers. That's a great one that feels really lightweight and it's non-comedogenic, but it also is at a great price point. I do love the Elizabeth Arden hyaluronic acid capsules. I think they're great. Those are coupled with ceramides that are bioidentical with the skin. So they really help to lift and plump, but also seal in that hydration. And those are great for travel too. I mean, you can just pop however many you're in a bag for however many days you're vacationing, and you're set in a very, small container. So those are two of my favorites.
I want to ask you about sunscreen because obviously any dermatologist will say use it all year round.
Yes.
Do you up the level in the spring, or do you tend to kind of keep it the same all year round?
Yeah, I love that question. I mean, certainly you're right. You will not hear any dermatologist who's worth his or her salt who isn't saying that it's a 365 days a year practice, and we want it just like you either put on deodorant or brush your teeth, and it's just part of your ritual because the amount of cumulative UV exposure is what really over time causes skin cancer and collagen breakdown and wrinkles and hyperpigmentation. So it's a long game.
Yeah.
So you just have it as part of your routine and never leave home without it. That said, in January where we have like 4 hours of daylight, you could lower it. I mean, certainly the American Academy of Dermatology recommends, and we as dermatologists recommend, a minimum SPF of 30, which is a change from when, I was younger and it was like, the thought was anything above 15 is a waste. And I always thought that was funny because it's not like the price doubled when you got to a 30 or even more expensive at a 60. So it's like the higher the number, the better for protection. But certainly not only should I think the SPF go up when we're going to be in sunnier months or direct sun contact, but the reapplication is key. And so many people are like, oh, I don't know what happened. I put it on before I left. And then you had a 3-hour brunch outside. And it's not actually where you're actively in the sun, playing tennis or at the beach. It's the sneaky stuff of like, I spent all day in Soho shopping and I don't know how I got this, my melasma's back.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
That's because we weren't re-upping our protection.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of like all of the variants of SPF now, because you can do your skincare in the morning, then do your SPF, and then your makeup might have some extra. And then I love the powder sunscreens. I think those are great for easy to have with you in your pocketbook. You can always travel with them. TSA is not going to take it, but it doesn't, we're makeup girls. Like the last thing you want to do if your face is made up is reapply sunscreen that's a lotion. So that's a great way to like up your reapplication without wrecking your face.
Yeah, and I think it's what's better about those versus like a spray. There are like SPF sprays out there. It's just like, it's more, you're actually getting it on your face with the powder, right? Versus the spray, which is like a bit willy-nilly.
I know. My husband loves the sprays, and I think it lulls you into a false sense of security that you've got SPF, 85 on you. But the coverage is not as predictable. We've all seen those like, missed areas where it's just a swath of a burn where people clearly intended to protect their whole back, but it didn't cover everywhere. So we don't want those moments. So we, the more we can make sure we're getting the intended product in the intended spot, the better.
Yeah. Have any SPF face daily moisturizers with SPF impressed you lately?
I mean, one of my favorites is, I have two of them. One is the Eryfotona Ageless from ISDIN.
Okay.
And that's a tinted sunscreen that I really like. It's SPF 50. It's out of Barcelona. But it also has a DNA repair enzyme in it.
Okay.
And that helps to reverse sun damage and helps to correct some of the DNA mismatch that occurs over time when you have sustained ultraviolet radiation exposure. And in Europe, it is prescribed as a treatment for sun damage.
Oh, wow.
Here in the U.S., they don't lean into the fact that it has that enzyme because then it would need to be labeled as a drug.
Right.
But it is effective in reversing sun damage. So not only are you preventing it going forward, but it's an active treatment to help enhance the health of your skin. And it's beautifully done. The formula is nice. It's zinc, which we all know back from growing up, like the idea of like the lifeguard with the whiteness.
Yeah.
I mean, zinc has come a long way.
Yeah.
And this is tinted with a very beautiful universal tint. So it's not giving you that opacification that historically zinc-containing sunscreens could.
Yeah.
And so it just sits on the surface of the skin and protects, but also is having that repair mechanism as well, which is great. So I love that one. I love one called City Smart because obviously we work here in the city, and pollution is an environmental assailant that we don't think about really wreaking havoc on our skin. But pollution particles are 20 times smaller than our pore size. So it's like throwing a nickel in a basketball hoop. It's so easy to go in and penetrate deeply into the levels of the skin and then unleash, free radicals, which then can cause DNA damage. So City Smart has SPF 50, and it's also zinc oxide, but it also has a pollution shield, which is like a semi-permeable membrane that helps to protect the skin. It doesn't clog pores, and it's fully breathable, but it stays on until you wash your face.
Okay.
So that helps to protect from pollution, and it also has antioxidants in it. So you're getting like a triple protection.
That one's from the Pravage line, right? Pravage is such a sleeper hit. And I feel like back in the day, it made a big splash.
Yes.
But then maybe it didn't, you don't hear about it as much. But that antioxidant that's in it, whatever it's called.
The Idibinone.
I was going to say Idibinone.
Yeah.
That is really a powerful antioxidant, especially if you can't tolerate a vitamin C or something like that.
No, I love that line. I agree with you. I think that they don't toot their own horn enough sometimes because they really pioneered the whole space about we didn't think about pollution and how much that, there are studies that show that if you live in a highly trafficked area in an urban setting, you're 20% more prone to hyperpigmentation in the skin just in where you live, not controlling for how much sun you get. It was just the pollution component of it.
Interesting.
So
I would have thought that would maybe just be from walking outside a lot versus being in your car from A to B.
Yeah, but if you think about a lot of suburban places to have more outdoor activities that are more people, here we are, we're always indoors. Except for to run out for lunch or something. But it is interesting that was one of the findings.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I would need that. I always think about this when I leave from a facial downtown.
Right.
And you're, getting on the subway and you're just like, am I just reversing everything that just happened because the pollution's just
right.
going.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good time to put on the face shield because it really is like a mask. And we often will give patients, if we've done a laser resurfacing, and we ask, how are you getting home?
Right.
And if they're taking the train, we'll give them a mask and then tell them to wear their sunglasses, not to be a diva and not show what you've done, but more for a physical protectant.
Absolutely.
Right. Designated dermatologist, people are getting home safe.
That's right.
From the Schaefer
Can we
clinic.
call you a car?
There's a black car waiting for you behind the scenes here. That's awesome. Okay, and what about for spring? Are there ingredients that you don't like to mix or layer together? Why or why not?
Yeah, historically in the dermatologic space, we obviously treat a lot of acne, and we know that benzoyl peroxide is a pesky molecule. And there is truth to the fact that when the weather warms up, that you do get excess sebum production. So warmer weather does create more oil output. That's where people will think they look shiny or greasy in warmer weather. They do. It's not just sweat. They're actually creating more oil. So when we're treating this kind of seasonally induced acne, often we love benzoyl peroxide as a prescription option for treating acne, but it doesn't play well with a lot of ingredients, in particular your retinols. And vitamin C, often you need to make sure that you're spacing away. Vitamin A and vitamin C, depending on the formulation, often may not play well together. But the good news there is it's not that you can't use them in the same day. And we typically use vitamin C in the morning and then your vitamin A derivative at night. And that's okay space-wise because you've cleansed your face and they're not actively being mixed on the skin.
What about stuff for hyperpigmentation? Because I think that's a big concern in the spring, summer.
Yes.
So is there anything, because I think there's some pretty, strong treatments that are out there.
There are. And, melasma in states of hyperpigmentation are difficult to treat, even in the best of hands. We have great results, but it's not a one size fits all often.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on the depth of the pigment, people's skin type, what medications they're on. Certainly we know that if people are on oral contraceptives, there's an increased risk of melasma. When you're pregnant, it's called colasma, which is the mask of pregnancy. But in these like hormonal states and fluctuations, we can see that there's more pigment deposited into the skin. So the keys to that are, one, to wear sunscreen as if it is a medicine. And physical blockers are better for this because heat can stimulate it, infrared, ambient lighting even. It's not even an ultraviolet. It's not solely ultraviolet radiation.
Really?
So you think you're protected indoors.
Yeah.
So why would you, if you were just working from home, people often wouldn't put on their sunscreen, but you actually need to be protected indoors as well. And this is interesting. It needs to be tinted because the iron oxide in tinted sunscreens actually gives more protection against hyperpigmentation than just a white or a clear.
Zinc.
Yes.
Why is that?
It's the way that it helps block the conversion and the stimulation of the melanocytes in the skin.
Oh, interesting.
So it's strange because a lot of people don't like tinted sunscreens. But in patients who have melasma, we found that if you just change to a tinted one, it actually helps to clear more readily.
Interesting. Okay.
For active ingredients that help to lighten, an easy one that's very well tolerated, that even people who are pregnant, it's category B, azelaic acid is good as a lightener. Hydroquinone in I would say as prescribed by a doctor and monitored is safe, but in short, bursts. We don't want to be on it consistently throughout the year.
Yeah.
I love chemical peels and I love lasering for it, but you have to be careful. Obviously, you can get like a paradoxical darkening with some of these. So you want to go to someone who like really manages hyperpigmented states because it can be tricky. Sometimes we have to go on oral TXA in order to like clear it, depending how deep the pigment is. And it certainly is a journey. I had a patch of melasma when I was a resident on my forehead. And, I think we kind of forgive it when we're looking in the mirror or even like face to face, but it shows up so much worse in pictures. People who look like they have a mustache. You really don't, or maybe you can cover it up, but the camera captures it so much more. And patients will come in and be like, look at me in this picture. Like it reads much worse.
So with the hydroquinone, which you mentioned, is there a time of year that's better to do that or not? Because I know like peels, usually they would say there is a better time of year. So tell us about that seasonality.
Yeah, I mean, we see so many different treatments come in and out of timing based on what the weather is giving us. So obviously, right after the holidays, it tends to be like laser season until about May. Or we'll do it right up before this, depending on if people are traveling or where they're going for the summer. And that's not to say that there aren't people who I really trust to take care of their skin and do a peel or a major laser in the summer months. But by and large, I feel like it's just probably easier, unless they had a big event or something that they were getting ready for, to just do it when it's safest, because we don't want to do any harm.
Right.
And if somebody happened to be outdoors for too long after a laser and was sitting at brunch having a great time and forgot about, oh my gosh. And then they have hyperpigmentation. I only had one patient ever who, after I did like a CO2 resurfacing on her skin, she was not thinking. And we do get lulled into a false sense of security when we're indoors. And she was working from home, but by the window. And so one side of her face just hyperpigmented in the healing because it was like 2 days past Fraxel and it basically got a sunburn. Now we got her completely back to normal, but it was a little bit stressful for a bit that you've just undergone something to look better. And then we're like created a new problem to address for a bit. So know that indoors by windows and in cars, we are not safe. There's still UV rays that are not filtered out, and they can cause harm. So just because you're inside does not mean you don't need your sunscreen.
That's happened to me in a car before, for sure. And how about hydroquinone then?
I would say if you can, I would skip it for June, July, August.
Okay. And is there anything else when it comes to your personal routine that you would switch up come summer, like maybe a cleanser, the way you exfoliate, anything like that?
Certainly. I mean, I think that, I love wearing makeup. I'm a makeup girl. I tend to double cleanse all year round, and like, because I use more of a balm or an oil-based cleanser to do the first step, and then I follow with this cleanser I love. I've used it forever. It's by a company called Epionce. Do you know it? It's called Lytic Gel. It just feels great. It has a little bit of salicylic acid in it and AHAs. It's also like very slightly mentholated, so it kind of gives you that like very clean feel. But guys love it. Everybody I recommend it to is like, I really like that cleanser. And cleanser is one of those things where, I mean, you like it or not, but it's just on your face for like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're in love. You know, you don't see tons of change, but it feels great, and it does like cleanse my skin very well. So that I do
need to
use.
try that.
Yeah, it's great.
We'll link to everything on our website, guys.
And you can also use it like as a body wash too, which is really nice.
Okay.
But I switch, I will not use as thick of a night cream. I think that that's something that we all kind of transition into. And then for body, I feel like body's having a huge moment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, scalp care, every mailer I get is for the scalp or for the body.
Yeah.
Totally
It's like we just discovered that we have skin above our hairline and below our chin. So, everybody's coming out with like either a vitamin C serum for the body or a retinol for the body, which is great. And they really do work. And I think before, you weren't going to spend $100 of your tretinoin like trying to make it, you would go through a tube a week. But now they're making it way more economical and also well tolerated so that you're not like red and peely and retinizing the skin of your body. I think it's a lower concentration. But those are certainly things that I'm way more mindful of using when I'm going to be showing more skin.
Yeah.
What about the décolleté? Do you use like a specific product for that area, or do you take your skincare all the way down?
I do, but then I will follow. I like Revision's Nectifirm. I think that's a really good one. I think they do a great job. I also like Neck Correct by Skin Medica. I think that's a great one. They have this extract in there called Paracris or something like that, I think. And it works on the platysmal muscles to decrease that contraction.
So these are the muscles that like pull your chin down.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The vertical muscles.
That's
in your
right.
neck. Yeah.
They're not the horizontal from tech neck.
Right.
But the vertical ones that mine are so strong. I've Botoxed them like 7 times trying to make them I look like a Gila monster. But that muscle is the most superficial muscle on the body. I mean, when you're in gross anatomy, which is gross, dissecting it from the skin is virtually impossible. I mean, it's almost like it's so superficial. It's right underneath the surface of the skin. Okay. And that's what makes us kind of go, eek. But over time, it also, the way it attaches anatomically, it's up here, above, onto the face. So when it starts to, as we're aging, it pulls down. So that's where the Botox, if you put it in at the base of the mandible and along these platysmal lines, it helps to like counteract.
Have a bit of a lift.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this what's called
Platysmal.
Platysmal Botox? Okay.
Yeah, I saw that you're doing this on your Instagram, that you were doing it. You've done this on yourself then. Tell me, do you interject your own neck with Botox?
Yes.
How do you do that in front of a mirror?
I do it in front of a mirror. I mean, mine are very easy because they're prominent, but that's an easy muscle to Botox because it is so superficial. You literally, have y'all ever gotten a PPD? Like when people are testing you for tuberculosis?
Oh, no, I haven't.
It's like a little tiny bleb under the skin when they test you and they see if it reacts or not. If you're in medicine or work in any medical facility, you have to be tested to make sure you don't have tuberculosis. So anyway, that's kind of how you inject here. It's very superficial. So it looks like after you inject it looks like tiny little blebs under the skin, just temporarily. But that is very easy to hit because you can see where it is. And then you just inject it right under the mandible or the jawline where it's going to attach onto the skin. And you will see like that improvement of this little pre-jowl where I feel like the lower face, as far as something that aesthetically people are coming in for, it is all day, every day. Like I think we've bought into. We are all on board for Botox from the cheekbones up and then like filler here. We get it.
Right.
But this is like now the new
Completely agree. I also got blepharoplasty to be transparent, but I don't get Botox around my eyes. I'm not saying I never will, but I kind of like the lines there. I think it's very natural and I don't find it unattractive.
Agreed.
But what I don't like for myself is the sagging in my lower face where it starts to look like I'm sad when I'm not sad.
100%.
And where it's all just my face is going into my neck. So I'm more interested in that these days and I'm just leaving my eyes alone.
I love when patients come in and say, I don't want Botox here, because I agree, looking at you, like that is part of your aesthetic. Like you have a smiley eye. Yeah. It's really nice. And I think it's lovely. And so I think that's important for you to hear as a provider, like what you don't want changed.
Right.
Because, a lot of times, because there's so many people in aesthetics, it's kind of like paint by number.
Right.
And
Do it
that
all.
is not how it should be, because that takes away your uniqueness.
Right.
Now, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that a week ago I got a bunch of pictures back. And I had that exact same thing. Yeah. I was animating, it was on camera, and they, I'm sure y'all get it, like some kind of screen grab, and you're like, what face was I making? But everything looked like I was frowning.
Well, I was telling Jill that my son all of a sudden started saying to me when I was just resting face, he was like, why do you look so sad? Oh, why do you look sad? And I was like, why is he asking me this now? Like, I'm not doing anything, and then I realized the more I started to look that I think, I just hit that point, that threshold where all of a sudden my mouth is pointing downwards at the sides.
So I did my DAOs, or the depressor angularis oris. That's the muscle that does that, depresses the angles of your mouth. After I got that back, I literally Botoxed them the next day because I was like, this has to go. And it does turn that frown upside down. Like it literally, because over time we do get this like kind of frowny face.
Gravity.
And it doesn't make you look like the Joker. It just really like, I will show you in a minute after we finish a video of me. It looked like an upside down U. Like I was very strong in pulling those down. And now like when I go to frown watch what I can't do it.
Right.
Like it won't do.
Obsessed.
But wait till you see how bad it was a week ago. So we do have, we have ways to combat that, but it is annoying that like everything for the lower face is going against us. This is getting more tense, pulling down. These are pulling down. We're resorbing bone. Like the whole scaffolding of our jaw is shrinking. This is coming this way. In addition to losing all of our dermal components, the collagen, the elastin, the hyaluronic acid. So it's like, this isn't easy. This is a chip shot. Botox, little filler. But here it's like many things. You got to build out the mandible. You got to Botox the masseter. You got to Botox the platysmal.
The mouth.
Hit these. And it's like, then you got to help with the crepiness of, of the neck. And
well, at the end of the day, it's really trying to replace surgery, which is a pretty big ask, right? It's trying to like, the effects of a lower facelift.
And it's not just one thing.
That's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, we got a little off track there, but want to ask you about in-office treatments that you're excited about this spring. Is there anything new that we should know about?
Like, I want to erase the winter blahs from my face. What do I come to you and say,
Y'all
do
look
it?
Beautiful. I don't see any blahs here, but, I do like that kind of reawakening that occurs when we're like, okay, we're all emerging from our hibernation and we're ready to like literally shed skin and get ready for fun in the sun without getting sun. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, we still will do, I don't do any chemical peels personally, but my assistant does his work, and those are always easy and great and like give you a little boost. I tend to lean into more aggressive things to help with evening out skin tone and skin texture.
Like what would be like Fraxel or
Fraxel? I love fractionated CO2. I think it really does help to stimulate collagen elastin, and we can dial it up or down based on your tolerance for social downtime. So if you have a day, I'll give you a day. If you have a week, we can do a week. But I do feel like that's a great investment, and you literally only need to do it when we're doing something to like refresh and prevent and kind of collagen bank, as has become in vogue. Like for y'all, you need one a year. That's it. Your skin looks good. You've been taking care of it. We're just keeping things where they need to be. And that's kind of what I do once a year.
Yeah.
And it's nice versus it embarking on like, okay, a series of 6. That's a lot for people to undergo. And even if each one has one day of downtime, that's still a week out of your life that you've had to like skip stuff. So I'd rather just bang it out.
Yeah.
And most people can figure that out for like a one-time treatment.
Yeah. I really want to do PRP under the eyes.
Okay. Yeah,
and
we do.
CO2, right?
Yes.
So tell me why that is so beneficial, because, some people can do blepharoplasty under the eye, but I've heard that the PRP is like incredible.
Yeah, it's great. We're having a huge, it is funny. You can just tell what's going viral based on the calls. Like the Salmon Sperm, we were one of the first in New York to have that, and the phone was like ringing off the hook. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And PRP, I think fractionated CO2 around the eye on thin skin, whether it's neck or eye, because those are the first areas to show signs of aging, but they're the easiest to reverse. Because if you just build a little bit of collagen in thin skin, it translates clinically into much smoother skin. If you build the same amount of collagen on your cheek, it's not like you're going to see a huge lift. This is too heavy and the dermis is too thick. But here, it really, because the dermis is microns thick. So if you build more collagen in that area, it really smooths it out. So it's kind of the silver lining to these areas that are like the first to show signs of aging. We can reverse that so much easier.
Right.
And then adding the PRP, it's just your self proteins that have your own stem cells, your own growth factors, in order to help, like, 1, expedite healing, and 2, turbocharge the results.
Yeah. Okay. And the salmon facial, Salmon Sperm facial, I need to ask you about this because you offer them. You're one of the first people in the city to do that. So tell us, like, who is the best candidate for that? And then I'm also curious what your take is on the at-home products that now are claiming this.
I know the PDRN, which is the active ingredient, which is a polydeoxyribonucleotide from salmon, is just a DNA derivative that they found that salmon's DNA was 97% bioidentical with human. So ideally, it would be human, which you're getting from your PRP. But in order to create that in mass quantities, like, you would have to get it from other people. And that's kind of yucky to think about, like someone's like liposuctioned out adipose derived stem cells that weren't from you, being slathered all over your now beaten up face post CO2. So this kind of takes that ick factor out of it, and they do it in a very like humane way where they're post spawn and they're going to die anyway, and that's how it's extracted. So for animal lovers out there, that I think is important that it's ethically sourced, at least the one that we use. And it helps with recovery. So people who've done microneedling with radiofrequency, skin resurfacing, all of it, it's amazing the difference, because I've done this for 17 years, and I know how red people are going to get and how they're going to look post-treatment. And when you put this on, it's like a miracle recovery. The redness goes down. It's really expedites the healing. So that's a win-win in New York. Nobody has time to use anything. And it boosts the benefits. And so I've really was kind of skeptical at first as to how would I really feel about it. But I see a great difference in how patients recover, and they all love it. Like, everyone who's done it comes back for more.
Yeah. So. And apparently the PDRN has been used in Korea for like a decade.
Yes. And they're like
well proven.
Yes.
At
they're
this
like
point.
2,000 journals that are, it's obviously we're not going to do anything experimental that isn't FDA cleared through here. But it's not only safe, but also effective. And so it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You know who else uses it in their skincare? Valmont.
Oh, really?
Valmont has been using it since day one.
Oh, I love that brand.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors there, because it was, it was one of those things where it sounded a bit icky. So it wasn't like on the front lines in terms of their communications, but that is their key ingredient, always has been. And it's kind of like biologique recherche, where if you look too closely into their ingredients at one point, you know, it's like they come from the world of, you know, they're doing.
We're putting placenta.
Oh, yeah. Right. And so, of course, now it's all. That particular brand is transitioning to vegan, and I think that's what, like, why it's so expensive as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like it, and I love Valmont, so that makes sense.
But
but that's such a luxury one, and that, to me, I love that sensorial experience with theirs. Smell.
What are your thoughts on spicules in skincare? Maybe you can quickly explain what they are and why you think
another
they're good or not.
K-beauty trend.
Yeah, K-beauty trend.
With like the tiny little particles that like almost feel like
Arden.
Yes.
It starts out as like almost like a moisturizer or a putty, and then it hardens into this spicule that frankly feels kind of like glass on your skin.
Yeah, there's one that we have at the office called Cell Story.
Yes, we tried that one.
Yeah. And it feels like shards of glass that you put into your skin. And I mean, I will eat shards of glass if you told me it would make me look better. But like, it's hard to say, especially in that, because it's like 7 steps and everything else is luxurious and lovely. And then we put numbing cream on the patient just so, because we don't want it to be like this beautiful thing and then you're in agony for one of the steps.
Yeah.
But, you know, I never try anything numbed because I want to be able to like explain in the worst case.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to lie, that did not feel good. It's like you were, you know, being cut a million times. I do like the results. I think it's good. I think, you know, the same concept of creating micro injury in the skin through CO2 or other different devices is the same thought of like, just like microneedling, like creating a controlled injury that then tricks your body into thinking it needs to heal something. And when we heal something, we create collagen and elastin. That said,
I'd love to see microscopically.
Yes,
though.
I know. I'm worried about the micro injury to the skin where it's like then they have dilated vessels and, you know, people with rosacea, I think that would really flare them. It's not, I don't feel like it should be made for mass. I feel like back bar for people who know, like say someone had acne scarring and they're pretty durable in their skin, maybe that's a great place for it. But when you put things into just the consumer's hand where, especially in America, it's like, well, little's good, more's better. If you only recommend, if you recommend it twice a week and they do it every night, like you can't control for the potential harm that could occur.
Yeah. And the one thing I would say about the liquid microneedling that I thought was interesting is that you could use it on active acne versus microneedling where you cannot go near anyone that has any kind of breakout at all. So for texture that way, it's good. But then I agree, these at-home ones, I'm not so sure. Like these VT Riedel shots and things that look, they almost make them look like a syringe, frankly. I don't know that I would be that comfortable using it all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I feel like that too with a lot of at-home microneedlers. It's like either you're not really doing anything, because we do know that in order to get into the dermis, like you need pinpoints of blood, but I don't want people doing that at home. That's too much trauma, you know, for you to be inducing and potential for infection or irritation or hyperpigmentation or scarring. So I tend to try to encourage my patients to like leave the heavy lifting to me. And then at home, we're going to do like lovely, nourishing, supportive skincare to augment what we've done in office. But like, you don't need to be the home alchemist who's like mixing up your own potions and ordering 70% glycolic from the internet and burning your face, you know?
The December issue of New Scientist was actually dedicated entirely to skincare. And they came out with quite a few articles that we won't have time to go over them all. But I wanted to ask you about one. I wanted to ask you, this whole world has exploded of exosomes and growth factors and all of that.
Peptides.
Do you think that that's making the grade?
I love this question. I think it's kind of the Wild West right now. And it was like that a bit with PRP at first, because we knew that there was something there, but you couldn't really get the concentration right. There weren't results that you could count on often. And the variation with PRP for patients is like, even though it's my blood draw and my self proteins, I might be really dehydrated on a Monday and not get the same results that I would get a month later.
It's still a variable.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you want like true science that is, dependable, I don't know that we're there yet with it, but I do think there's real promise in those categories.
Yeah.
It's real buzzy. People love to talk about exosomes. Patients will ask me for them post-procedure, and I don't even know what they are truly looking for as an added benefit, but it's like very in vogue.
They know what to ask for. Yeah.
But I do think that they show promise. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see more studies to like really have it more reliable as far as results and concentrations and like where we see like true indication for them.
Yeah. I just want to circle back because at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned the skin repairing enzymes in products. And I've heard a lot of dermatologists talking about these recently. What has impressed you and what are they exactly?
Well, the one that I was talking about out of Barcelona, is a DNA repair enzyme. And we know that when we have ultraviolet radiation exposure, we have free radical formation that can then cause cellular damage.
Yeah.
And we get this DNA mismatch where the C's and T's and the A's and G's of the double helix, if you remember that from like 5th grade science, get kind of mispaired. And so this enzyme comes and reconnects them in a proper way so that they're, aren't bad outcomes like skin cancer or premature aging and collagen breakdown. And so I think that there's a lot of promise in that space of like finding these kind of corrective ways to work on a cellular level. And I love that we're alive in this time, at least in skincare, not politically. There's so many cool things that we're like sitting on, I feel like we're going to look great and feel great, hopefully, for so much longer than we ever maybe were intended because we've figured out these little hacks.
Would it be on the label as clearly as skin repairing enzymes, or is it are we looking for a word? Are we looking for...
Yeah, let me...
when I Googled it, it said Photolyase.
Photolyase.
Yes, and T4 endonuclease V. Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, I know. Just like Eryfotona.
Are those the two? Yeah. Are those the two main ones?
Yes.
Okay. Would they actually be on a label?
Often.
Really? Okay.
They are, but I mean, you can tell that that's clearly like not a U.S. brand because like the name sounds Latin and it's not very well, like it's not beautifully marketed as to what it does.
Right.
But those who know it's physician dispense predominantly as well. So we're able to like walk them through that. But I feel like most of the U.S. companies who would be marketing would certainly call that out. Okay. But it may be one that's also a deterrent because it may then get them categorized as a drug and have to be cleared through the FDA.
Okay. So from what I've read, I assume the photo is like activated by light. Is that right? Would that be
Photolyase? ACE is like what's at the end of any enzyme, and so what it does is breaks down whatever's in front of it. Essentially, I assume that it's breaking down the enzyme that was then causing DNA damage. Yeah. So it's like stopping that process.
Yeah, this sounds like it would be very powerful to prevent like a skin cancer.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. And it's a treatment in Europe that people who are covered in actinic keratoses, which are precancers and have had a history of squamous cell carcinoma, they prescribe this as like, not only is it preventative, but it's also correcting and hopefully preventing subsequent skin cancers. So it's cool. I mean, it's really neat technology.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing intel with us and helping us switch our routine to spring, leaving winter behind us. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.